Welcome to the Marketing Automation Hustle podcast, where we break down the essential strategies of email marketing and automation to help e-commerce brands hyper-personalize their customer journey and increase sales on autopilot. So get ready to automate your marketing like a pro with Caitlin Hutchinson.
Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are listening to us from and whatever time it is. Thanks so much for joining us for another at-home episode of the Marketing Automation Hustle. Now, before we jump into our episode where we'll be wrapping up our COVID-19 pandemic series, I wanted to make sure you knew about our free ebook that we just launched. It's called the eCommerce Segmentation Handbook, 12 e-commerce email marketing segments to maximize your customer LTV. And in this ebook, we'll teach you how to unlock your hidden revenue potential with, of course, segmentation. That's what the book is all about. We'll walk you through 12 different segments, what they are, how they'll help you, and what you can do with those segments to send more personalized, relevant content and emails to your contacts and customers. And you can grab that at sendlane.net/segmentbook. That's sendlane.net/segmentbook. So with that, let me bring in my guests. Jimmy Kim, our CEO here at Sendlane, and Amir Torabi, our Partner Integrations Manager. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. This is our fourth episode on the whole COVID pandemic and its effect on e-commerce, and we're all still at home. I don't need to say it, but here we are. It's Thursday, struggling to keep track of the days because I kind of feel like we're in the Groundhog Day movie right now. It's kind of how it feels.
It's like Groundhog Day, but if you're in e-commerce, it's like Groundhog Day and Christmas.
Totally. Which is why we're doing all of these different episodes. We first talked about how this whole pandemic has had a huge effect on consumer trends and just buying habits. Then we moved into the holidays because this upcoming holiday season for 2020 is going to be totally different. COVID's really flipped the whole holiday shopping model upside down. And then our last episode, we touched on specific tips that you can apply to your marketing to get yourself prepped for the holiday season so you're set up for success. So we kind of wanted to wrap all of that up into this final episode in this 4-part pandemic series, I guess we'll call it. And we wanted to talk about kind of the lasting effect that everything's going to have on e-commerce and how things are permanently going to change in the industry. So I felt like this was something that everybody should be listening to because it's not a just right now thing. It's not a while we're at home thing. It's really fast forwarded a lot of things, I think, in our world.
Yeah. It really has. I mean, it's a massive. If you own a store today, or you had you were a brick and mortar mom and pop store, and now you're going digital. All of this really amounts to a massive opportunity for everybody in this space, and that massive opportunity is just it's like these things don't happen often, right? Like, once every 30 years, some new industry pops up that mints a bunch of new millionaires, right? Well, in this case, yes, it's not a new industry, but I mean, I think Jimmy and Kaylee, you both would agree. This is it's kind of like the Wild West in a way in terms of opportunity. It's almost like it's new, right? Because it's not something that you don't just jump in terms of like retail to e-commerce penetration, which has been steady 1 to 3% every year since like 95, but all of a sudden in 3 months now it's 10%. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And I think the way that I look at it in my mind and a lot of the ways that I've been thinking about it is very simple. I think a lot of companies have now just realized we don't have to put all this effort onto the local side of things or, maybe looking at a lot of our other efforts that we might be doing and finally just starting to realize why did these large companies continue to strive and thrive through these times as well too? And they're kind of seeing the digital aspect of it. And I think you're seeing this across everything from marketers to people who are looking to buy technology to just about everything coming into place right now. There's just so many new people out in the market spinning up their first website or updating their website or changing technology or starting to really recognize that there's just a big amount of money available in this portal that they haven't thought about. And if they've done a great job as a business and been able to build a loyal customer fan base, shifting online is not going to be a big thing. And actually, what's funny about this story or this pandemic, I think is really funny, was like, I look back at New, right? So when I was at New, which is my old e-commerce clothing store that we had a retail storefront in e-commerce, right? And back then we're doing, I'm talking back 2015, I guess we'll just go back to there. 2015, we're probably doing, I don't know, 80% retail, 20% online. And we started to continue to shift. And by the time we were about 2017, I think it was like early 2017, we were looking at our numbers and we're doing almost 50-50 online and retail. And yeah, we were focused on online, but we also had that retail store. And, we started to think about like, what would happen if we closed down the retail storefront? Because that side wasn't profitable, where the online side was very profitable, right? Because man hours, rent, this, that. I mean, it adds up so much. And then our online side was just profitable because it just needed manpower and inventory. You could eliminate some of the stuff that you didn't need in the front end, especially on the weekend hours and all the other things that come with it. And I remember when we shut down the retail store. So remember, we shut down the retail side and focused purely online and moved to an online side of things. And most of our revenue from our loyal customer base followed us along. It never really changed for us. It really just barely put a little dip in our pockets and then just kind of took back off as people recognized and understood, like, it's great to have an online. And we had this like little tiny warehouse. There's a size less than the size of my office that I'm sitting in right now that had a showcase of all the new stuff, but it wasn't really anything more than a place to pick up clothing. And that's kind of like, I look back at 2017 and I was like, we just did this and it was very successful. And yes, we were able to spin it up, but the difference now is everybody's in a hyper rush to do this as well too. We took our time, did it slowly. So I know it works. Consumer behaviors, they are ready to make that purchase, especially if you're selling to people online, because online demographics, again, is what really makes a big difference for you, and we're finding those people in the right places. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing that I think about, and you guys had said it before, and Caitlin, you had said this before on our last podcast take before we kind of had to redo this a little bit, but you had mentioned that we saw, what was it, acceleration of like, what was it?
5 years in like basically digital adoption in a matter of months.
Yeah, so 5 years and 3 months. That just proves that everybody is fighting for it right now, and they just realized that it's like it almost clicked. And sometimes I would say the best way is it didn't click. I would say the best way is everyone already knew. They just thought they had time. And now they don't have time. And great entrepreneurs and great store and business owners, they are pivoting as fast as they can because they recognize it. So I don't even look at like the adoption of like something like Shopify or any of these things. I mean, those are all indicators and everything, but really it's just looking at these stores and looking at the companies that are surviving and the ones that have made those moves and the ones that will probably die because they won't make those moves because they think that it's going to blow over potentially, right? So I think there's a lot of it, online to everything, from like food to retail to just about everything. I mean, I think we're working with a client right now that sells dogs online now. Like, what can't you sell online anymore? That's really the honest answer.
I have a question for you, Jimmy. How did you guys decide to like capture, like now you're going, okay, I have my digital and that's like making 20%. Really, I'm a retail kind of outfit. How did you guys make sure that what you were doing in retail in terms of the feel of the store, in terms of like, that experience part of it translates online?
Yeah, I think it's not just one effort, but it started with our website and curating a better website, curating better experience, a lot of custom stuff. I'll tell you, there's no way to use out of the box stuff and be able to really customize that experience because they all look the same. So we customized a lot of things. What we were known for back in the day, it was we handmade in the USA our shirts, right? They were like shirts, clothing, everything was made in the USA. But what we really were known for was the elongated tee, which was we did. So we like built this entire thing called the Basics Bar and built out this thing, really explaining exactly what it was. So it was like a digital show person kind of sitting there, like teaching them why and what each of those products were and what they did for them and how they could package those deals up. So there was a lot of customization that came into place, which is why I say like it's really interesting because time is of the essence right now. And unfortunately, back then we had 6 months, 8 months to build this perfect site out and curate that experience at that time. But nowadays, I don't think you have that. So it's a work in progress. So I think this is where perfection is something you can't aim and strive for right now. You've got to get online and you can do ever optimizing, which includes having great digital marketers to help you optimize that as well too. So Yeah, that's a good question. But yeah, that's what we did. We focused on it and we just continued to focus on the experience and making sure that we were updating the site regularly. I'm talking like daily and just making sure that we're using the right plugins, the right technologies, and the right tools. And then, of course, communicating to the customer very often, right? So that's one of the things. I think we were lucky because we spent our time in those years collecting email addresses, collecting customer information that came through our retail storefront. We would ask every person for that email address, had that database that we're already regularly sending because I was part of it and I was sending emails for over the company. But as time went, what that allowed us to do is when we made that shift, we not only communicated to the customer early and often enough that we are closing down the retail store and we're focusing here, but also as it happened and people were up to cycle of rebuying and doing things, then we were already there in front of them to say, hey, we're completely online and a digital company now. We do have a little presence in Las Vegas as a warehouse, and you can swing by the warehouse and pick up clothes, but ultimately, like, it's an online experience now. And I think that's really the big part of that story.
Interesting. So it's like, even if you're forced into spinning up today, as long as you're doing the communication part right and you get the extra time to build it out the way you want it, you can always be like, hey, come back to our relaunch. And,
Yeah.
there's always time to re-pivot. But if you're not online at all, especially.
Well, yeah, it'd be a struggle if you're not online right now. You have no email addresses. I mean, you're gonna have to rebuild like you're building new, unfortunately, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys have made a lot of great points. So we'll kind of dive into all of this stuff individually because the focus of this podcast is obviously to prepare anybody who's listening for how the e-commerce world is going to be permanently affected even after everything's reopened and we're back to what we know as being normal. So we kind of already touched on this and emphasized just how technology has changed. But I think what's so interesting is just that this pandemic was a kind of an unexpected catalyst for tech adoption, which we just mentioned. We've kind of fast forwarded in a lot of ways. And I think it's also because we have a lot of consumers for whom the online shopping world is a totally new behavior. Like Jimmy mentioned, whether it's for clothing, which is pretty standard. Now people are doing things online more for groceries or for their pet stuff or whatever. So I think there's definitely been increased just all across the board generationally for everybody, because like I know my grandparents are now learning how to order groceries online and use Amazon, and I think that's crazy because they never would have done it had they not been forced to. And this whole pandemic has really forced people out of their comfort zone, because there's a lot of people like us where it just comes naturally. We're like, well, why wouldn't you just order it online? You have your phone, it's easy, I don't have to leave the house, I don't have to try stuff on in a dressing room because I hate that. For them, it was such a got to go to the store, need to touch it, need to see it. And now they're forced to kind of try something new. And if anything, they're probably liking the experience a little too much, just like the rest of us, and buying way too much stuff they don't need. So I think it's super interesting just to see people's buying habits having changed because consumers are adopting the technology, as well as, like you mentioned, a lot of brick and mortar stores having to push their e-commerce strategy faster than expected. There's a lot of consumers that are forced to do that tech shift because of everything that's been going on.
Yeah. I mean, window shoppers became, window shoppers, like browser window shoppers. That's where we're at. I mean, it's
that's a good one. I like that. Window shopping.
I've been sitting on that one for a minute.
Browser window shopping. I might have to think about that for ad campaign.
I mean, it really is. It's okay. I was talking to a guy who is interested in teaching piano lessons digitally now, and he's super excited about it because he's like, oh, I can reach out to all these different places and I can up my prices, and it's forcing so many different people into these new mindsets. It's crazy. And it's actually one of the things that I was thinking about is how used to this kind of thing we are, right? Like This is not new for us. We've been on that train for a while, right? But now that everyone is now in this kind of world, and now they're all becoming these window browser shoppers, right? Experience, and the reason I asked Jimmy about experience is that a listing of your products is not going to do it. Doesn't matter if you're small or you're big. None of that stuff matters. If you can't give more on your site and think about the experience side of it, I mean, it's just because there's just too much. It's not just you now. There's so many other people getting into this world. So you can't just say I need to get online. You need to be online in a meaningful way. But
Yeah.
if you can't be online in a meaningful way because of time or money, as long as you're there and you're thinking about it, you're on the right track, right? What would you guys say?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of it. I think you guys both brought up some good points, and what in my mind, and I guess this is my business owner side come into mind a little bit more. I think about just the rapid change that's happening with people and like purchasing behavior on like the business side, so like technology adoption and how things are happening. So think about this, right? Back in the day when I was thinking about my retail store, I'm thinking about the podium that the ground sits on, and then how I'm going to fold these sheets and how that's going to happen. How's that stand going to look? What's that sales sign going to look like? How should they be curated when they walk through the store? Where should we put the hottest items in the store, right? Guess what? You've got to figure out how to do that the same way. But that changes because I think it's not just technology adoption, but it's people adoption as well, too. I hate to say this, but this is something that is going to be tough for some people. But your local store owners, the people who work in your storefront, probably aren't going to be the right people to help you get into the digital space and making sure you have the right people. So if I think about adoption and change is going to be a lot more people starting to kind of enter the digital marketing space and like really understanding it, and then trying to figure out what that exact thing that they're really good at in the digital marketing space is really going to be. But also the different technologies you have, the ways that you have signs, the loyalty reward card, the communication, to those signage, to the pop-ups, to just about everything you've got to think about. And you've got to translate what the retail experience was and make it a digital experience. And that's really hard because not everything translates black and white. So you've got to find and curate that to kind of create that. And then you're now no longer thinking about how many people walked into the store and how many people made a purchase and how much they spent make that day. Now I'm looking at how many web visitors that I had, how many people added to cart, how many people made that conversion, and how many people repeated that sale. So it's the same stuff. It's just translated differently. And I think that's the hardest part that people will struggle to think about a little bit, especially if you're not digitally native already, which again, I say is people adoption. You need to get yourself a strong digital native person who can help you navigate this, because most people aren't going to figure this out on their own. And this isn't just something that you just pick up as a business owner like you normally would with a lot of other things you might probably do really good at too. So, that's more on the local side, but I think that that's relevant across, and even people who are just small e-commerce presence or more. But, technology adoption is changing a lot, and we're meeting a lot of customers even here at SendLane, but also I hear from my other e-commerce tech owners as well too, and they're all in a very interesting place depending on how they're working with people. But I haven't heard anybody who's not feeling the oomph that's kind of coming below everybody right now.
Do you think, Jimmy, if you're new, maybe you're already an established business, maybe you've already had an e-commerce site, but you really need to get more sophisticated. Do you think you go and say, hey, I can hire an agency to handle this? Or it's pretty attainable to learn this on your own? I mean, there are good resources out there, at least to somewhat understand it, right? Like, how would you?
I don't agree with that actually, because I think the people like Jimmy mentioned would be people that are so just naturally used to having that storefront, like that physical, living in the physical world, that I think it would actually be doing yourself a disservice to try to do it yourself, because A, that's an insane amount of time, and B, there's a good chance you're going to mess up a lot of stuff, not because you're not intelligent, but because you just are trying to do way too much. Like I mentioned last time, we go on Upwork all the time here at SendLane to find people who excel in something specific and are an expert at something very specific, so that we know that it's getting done properly and we're not wasting our own time doing it and can dedicate ourselves to the more important pieces of business. So I'm a part of this, one of my many groups on Facebook, but I saw a couple people post recently, do you know anybody that like sets up Shopify websites? So I was kind of just scrolling through there, reading it just out of curiosity. But I think that's a great resource, actually. There's a lot of Facebook groups out there, or Slack channels, or wherever, or Upwork. That's always an option. But talk to people. I think it's important. You can get recommendations from people on Upwork. You can read reviews, which I've always really liked. But to your point, Amir, we're all pretty tech savvy, and I wouldn't want to leave that up to me to figure everything out. Maybe certain pieces, but I feel like there's an awful lot involved, and you can find someone for a pretty good deal online with all the resources that's available.
Yeah, totally.
And my answer to that is, if they would have had the know-how, they would have already done it before. So that's where I would come back and say, if they already knew, they would have already done it, because if it was that easy to them. Like, if you told me to spin up a Shopify store, I'd probably stumble and fumble. And I know Shopify pretty well, but I didn't do some initial setup stuff. So I'd probably stumble and fumble a little bit, but I'd figure it out pretty quickly. Again, regardless of pandemic or not, I would have already figured it out, right? So that's where I go back and say, I don't know. But I would actually say, I think individuals are great, but I also think agencies are great in their own way, right? You've got a different balance. Where are you with budget and spendable? If you've got the budget and you're big enough and it's affecting your business enough, get the agency so you can move faster. Maybe, I don't know, or get the person. But I'm with you on that too as well. I think there's both ways. And obviously, a lot of people could be also, people are stubborn. They're probably trying to do it themselves as well too. But I guess my advice, and I think you're hearing it from everybody here, is, well, if you already are hesitant about it, you probably should just let someone do it right the first time, and not pay and stumble through and then pay the fixed fee plus getting it set up correctly. And that's a lesson that I've learned as well too many times in my life.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I can't even shame people for trying to do it themselves, because sometimes you just have to give it a go to realize that it's not the best answer. I've already learned that in a few things where I figured it out mostly, but in the end, I ended up spending up more time finding someone and paying them to fix it from all the time and energy I put in trying to do it myself. So if you want to give it a go on your own, more power to you, I guess. But
no, I think these are all valid points. And I guess what I wanted to do is say, if you're thinking about doing it on your own, very much think about what we were saying here. But if you say, hey, I can do this, just make sure you have your resources in place. Join your Facebook groups, communicate, ask questions. They can even not only make you recommendations, but they can call out things that you're doing wrong as you go. But
totally.
I think it's valid to say it's not really a great idea to do it, especially if you're time sensitive, which, based on our topic currently, is time is of the essence.
It's okay, Amir. You just have a lot of confidence in our listeners, and that's great. They all appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to move into our second prediction for how things are going to permanently change. So let's talk about the supply chain and what's changing there, because as a store, you've got your website, manufacturing sites, your logistics systems, like suppliers, and your customers. So I feel like there's disruption all the way down the line because of everything.
The only story I can share right now that I know about disruption is the fact that, for example, computers. Let's just be simple. The simplest thing right now, as a business owner trying to buy computers right now is like, it's actually really tough right now to buy. We buy just so every different role has different types of products that we use, but we use pretty standardized MacBook Pros across the company, for example, right? If I want to order a 13-inch MacBook Pro right now on Apple, and this is with me on a back-end portal where I get preference with things because of how much we spend at Apple already, it's 6 weeks to get an Apple right now. 6 weeks.
That's crazy.
I'm buying refurbished computers right now because I just can't get a new computer. Literally can't get a new computer. Sold out at Best Buy, sold out at Costco, sold out everywhere right now. So that's happening across the world on a lot of products right now. Just things are back ordered, and God, this holiday season will be so interesting. But yeah, it's unpredictable a little bit where it's going. You've got to kind of put your eggs in the basket and say, hey, digital is going to be where it is and I got to stock up that inventory. But I think the challenge battle this year and this, my prediction for this holiday season is sold out problems. Everyone's going to be sold out of stuff. So where I know people go, oh, last minute, I'll get a great deal. You're not going to get anything because you're going to get, when you walk into the place that had a 50% off clearance sale and there's like a pen over here and a pink fluff ball, something that used to be something over there. That's what you're going to walk into websites with one day. And everything's going to be sold out. And you're going to be like, well, how do I buy this? You're going to be like, sorry, we don't even know when our next shipment is. And oh yeah, by the way, we have back and order stock. Please put your information there. But we also have a waiting list of 3,000 people waiting for that product as well too. And then that just becomes another second race. So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting times with hype in how urgency is going to actually play into it, and not false urgency, but like real scarcity, because there just literally isn't any more products. And I think that's going to be the problem. And then secondly to that, the people that are using more third-party products where they're not maybe selling their own branded stuff or their own developed stuff or their own production stuff are going to even have more problems because distributors are not sharing as much because they don't have anywhere, and they've got to take care of their number ones, right? They got to take care of their Amazons and their Walmarts and their Targets and the major providers. Well, sorry, if you're Sherry's Boutique down the street and you generally get 100 packages of these brand new shoes, you may get 0 this time because they just don't have inventory and they've constrained you out because you're honestly not worth it in a lot of times, right?
So, I mean, you should more reason to start your Black Friday like yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't sell products you don't have.
Yep.
And by the way, what happens to MSRP when demand goes up and supply goes down? The price goes up.
I can't. I'm on this webcam and why I'm on a 2013 Mac Retina Pro and like using this webcam that I don't think is that great is because I can't buy a new Logitech webcam because I refuse to pay the 4x markup that's on Amazon, that's on every website for the best camera that generally costs $60. People are selling for $250 on Amazon right now, and they're selling out. And that's I'm just like, I don't even know what to do. I go to all my favorite stores. Everyone's sold out on this camera because everyone needs it, right? It's a necessity that's happening right now, but I can't even buy it, and I just refuse to spend $250 on that camera. So here I am with my Mac monitor from 2013 that I'm just going to have to settle with until I can but until I want to spend more than the MSRP. So what you just said there, hype is coming. eBay, things, auctions, eBay's OfferUp, collection, all these other places, it's all a matter of ecosystem. So people are going to be going out going, man, I can't find this, I don't know, these eye drops anywhere. I'm going to go on Craigslist, find them. Oh man, they're like $1 more on Craigslist. Even though I pay $4 here, they're $5. Well, I guess I got to pay that because I can't find the product anymore.
Yeah. We already experienced that at the beginning of this, right? With toilet paper.
Oh, yeah. A toilet paper is a whole different problem animal, but that's a whole different thing. But without looking
No, I mean, but like that was just the sneak peek into everything when everybody's after the same thing or the manufacturers are struggling to keep up with it. Yeah. Like I've even seen like this crazy just like flux in Target's inventory of stuff. Things are sold out so fast and they'll be sold out. And normally if it's not available, like they stopped offering the product. That's how much I shop at Target that I know how this works. If it's unavailable, they just don't have it anymore. Like they stopped making it and they're moving on to their next line of stuff. Now I've noticed they're just out because they're out. Like they don't have any more product. And I'll check back a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and sure enough, they'll have more. And then it'll run out again. And I've never seen that happen before. So it's just interesting because even the biggest players are struggling to keep up with this because there is so much more online demand.
It's insane. So yeah. One of the things we all should definitely do is buy some eBay stock.
Yeah, no kidding. Actually, I was helping my friend find a printer. She has a little business out of her house, and she just wanted a printer at home to print little like labels and stuff for her products. But you could not find a printer for a decent price anywhere.
Correct.
So I ended up finding one for her on eBay for like half the price that it was online. And we're talking like a simple printer. Doesn't need to do anything fancy, but print in color. That was the only requirement. And I could not believe, from Amazon to Best Buy, the cost of this basic printer that should be maybe $60 was selling for like $200.
No, I mean, here's another one. Catalytic converter, completely random, a car part, right? It filters out the exhaust, right? I needed to replace one on one of my cars, and I went to the store, and I've been in the car industry, right? So I know what this stuff's supposed to cost, right? So I walk in and I'm like, hey, what's the quote on it? And they tell me like $800. I said, what? I said, I want you guys to have aftermarket parts. I don't want the factory parts. It's an older car. I don't care that much. I just need to pass smog. And he goes, look, he's like, you obviously know what you're talking about. Here's what the truth is. My manufacturers, and he flipped it over and showed it to me, are charging me almost double already. This was 3 months after it started in March to June, double what it used to cost because of a lack of supply. And in order for them to make up their budgets and margins due to the fact that there's no supply behind it, they've had to increase their prices. And it's now trickling down to the consumer level too. So here I am paying I think it was like $800 to fix something that I know that if I look back at a year ago, 6 months ago, I would have fixed for $350, $400. So I literally had to pay double, but I'm strapped because I had to, because in order to drive the car, I had to get smog done in California. In order to get smog done, I had to get my catalytic converter on, right? So it's like trickle effects starting to happen. See what this problem starts happening is now I'm paying double, which means that if I was on a tighter budget, then half my budget of that money got eaten up. And that means that I wouldn't be able to do X, Y, and Z, right? Suddenly things change a lot. And that means that something I might have been looking for that amount for $400, right? That I'm just going to have to hold back and say, hey, I'm going to wait 6 months to be able to buy this or until there's a great sale for it. Well, that's where customer communication and getting on a list and staying in front of them will help you. Where traditionally, if I walked in and said at 400, I don't have it, and walked out and I don't have an email list, well, I wouldn't know unless I just got really excited about it one day and got back into it. So, I think there's so much with supply chain that affects the entire spectrum or the picture around everything we're doing, a lot more than just the product, but it's like all the magnified effects that it's going to cause. And it really leads to one thing. It's like you've got to be thinking about the customer experience and more about what the customer needs and how to treat the customer to the best experience that you can create that experience as well too.
Yeah, that's
definitely.
Wow.
And so with that said, we've obviously identified kind of the issues that are happening in supply chain because of just the shift that this pandemic has caused. So let's chat about how people can prepare themselves or what can be improved. So from my perspective, I feel like it would just be having that end-to-end visibility for yourself to make sure you know what's happening, you know what inventory you have, and you're prepared to just manage what you do have because you know what's there and how things are moving. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think you're nailing it in the head. I think being able to tell the people and making sure the expectations are lined up, that's just about all you can do. I mean, you've got to communicate to your customers and let them know. I think that's so important now because a lot of these people in the world buying now today don't know what it feels like to have shipping times and waiting for it. They're used to going to the store, buying that perfect pen or whatever, walking out and getting that instant gratification. Now, what changes is in the retail storefront, you buy something half the time, you can return it. You also are impulsive, right? With digital, every day it takes longer for your product to get there, the less the impulse drops. Secondly, the less you communicate with them and tell them what they're doing so their expectations drop and they start getting angrier faster. I definitely am a person, and Caitlin, I know you do as well too with this. I order something and it's been 2 days and I haven't heard anything from them. I'm like, did I get scammed? Did I get stolen? Did someone take my money? Are they even going to ship my product? And then it shows up on my door the next day and I'm like, all right, it's good. We're good. All right, we'll move on. But during that time, between that second day and that third day before the product showed up, I'm a little angry. I'm a little worried. I'm a little upset. All that they had to send me was one notification that said, here's your product. Here's your shipping notification. Okay. All right. I'm tracking my shipping going across Tennessee to Illinois or wherever the hell it goes. Okay. I'm not upset about it. At least I know when the end result is, right? But just simply that, or maybe they're back ordered. So I ordered this thing 2 weeks ago and they were back ordered because I don't know, they've been doing really well with it. And they ordered, it was like a sleeping thing that I ordered, like a cooling sleeping mat thing I ordered, and they were back ordered. But the entire time they literally emailed me every day to let me know, yes, we have your order. We're going to fill it. We're just waiting for a shipment to arrive so we can package it really pretty and get it off to you. So it was like 2-3 days of that. And then they were like, great news, the package arrived. You're shipping it. We're getting it ready now. We'll send you a shipping notification. And it's so great. At that, I actually reached out to the marketing director over at the company and said, I don't really have anything to say. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to tell you great job at what you're doing right now. You guys really got email down really well, the best I've seen in an e-commerce company in a while. Of course, I'm going to try to pitch him Sendlane later, but that's a whole different problem, right? That's not it. I really wanted to give him the kudos because his stuff made my experience so good and my expectations so good. I actually went off, told my buddy about it, and he spent, and this is $1,000 product, so it's not like something cheap. So I referred him to him. I didn't get anything for it. I literally gave him the link and said, I love the product. The communication was great. Everything was great. You should check it out. And guess what? He spent an order on it. They'll never tie our orders together because they're across the country. But my one order, due to my experience, made them another order. I know he's going to talk about it because I know he's going to love it. And he's going to talk about it and bring another 2 or 3 customers. That's how you build organic viral growth through customer experience. And that's literally the number one thing that I think that people should be focusing on. And if they're not focusing on this, like, I don't know what to tell you. You're not gonna succeed if you don't do this.
Yeah, full stop. Like that is like if you take nothing from the 4 episodes, take
it's perfect. It literally is a story of my $1,000 purchase I made to another friend who made $1,000. We spent $2,000 because I was so happy with the experience.
Yep,
it's great too, but the experience. So, I'll throw it out there. It was what is it? Technology. I can't remember anymore. So. It's a cooler, it's a sleep technology. I don't know if you ever seen ads for it. It's a cooling thing.
Well, that's, whatever the product is, at the end of the day, that is the most important thing, guys. Like, you have to really remember, like, we have a partner, Miva. They're a boutique shopping cart, and their CEO wrote a book, and it's all about this idea of defeating the dragon, and the dragon being Amazon, right? And companies like Amazon. And it really comes down to basically experiences. Amazon is the place where products are listed and bought and exchanged quickly with no emotion tied to, well, you know what I mean. Not that there isn't purchasing an emotion or emotion in purchasing off Amazon, but specifically some experience leading to a purchase, right? There's a lot more transactional relationship with Amazon that most people have. But in anybody else's case, brand is translated through experience.
Totally. And I think it's also because, customer expectations have shifted. They were already there. You should already be concerned about the customer experience. But I think it's like Jimmy touched on already, the expectations have changed. And like Jimmy mentioned, with that waiting for your package and having the expectation of 2-day shipping or whatever it is, I would say that's almost heightened now because so many of us are at home. And I don't know about you, but that's the highlight of my day, other than sitting here talking to you guys, of course, is getting my package delivered. And if I know that it's coming today, I can see right from where I'm sitting right here. I can see my front door, and you bet that I'm out there looking for my package because it's something exciting for my day, being stuck at home. So I think it's a little heightened right now. We were already impatient, and now I think we're extra impatient because before you go home at the end of your day and you're seeing if your packages are there. Now I feel like we're kind of sitting here throughout the day. I'm even looking at the stupid time windows on Amazon. I never used to care about the window of time when something was being delivered. And now if it says between 2 and 3, I'm like, okay, it's 2. Where's my package? So I think it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. Stakes are raised, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's, I feel like there's 3 things which we've touched on in past podcasts that customers expect now, which is free or very low cost shipping, fast shipping, getting that product quickly, and third is free or very easy returns. I think those are the 3 key things that we really expect. Obviously, the entire online experience on your store and checkout and payment process, we touched on that a little bit last time. Obviously, all of that needs to flow smoothly as well. But after the fact, I think we just expect it now. Jimmy touched on this a little bit last time, but Amazon kind of killed it for everyone. Once they started doing 2-day shipping, everybody else, like you said about Rick, correct, from Miva, his
Mm-hmm.
book about the dragon. When we did a podcast a few months ago, that was something we talked about. Just Amazon upped the expectation for shipping and forced everybody to figure out how to do free shipping or cheap shipping, fast shipping, and easy returns because that's who you're keeping up with.
Yeah. And so now Walmart is in the game now, right? Don't forget that too. Walmart just entered the game with their own subscription, annual subscription for faster shipping as well too. So
Yep.
it's just about to change. I think everything. I'm just waiting for one of these companies to buy a logistics company, like like Amazon essentially has their own logistics now. They might as well at some point. They're going to be able to just acquire another company like UPS or FedEx or even USPS. I was laughing. I was like, if Amazon went and bought United States Postal Service and made it privatized and took it over, they'd probably make it efficient and make it profitable and no longer have all these problems and probably make it tremendously better as well too. As much as I hate to say this all, but that's really the truth. And I'm actually, and I probably stand on a negative stance here, but I really think that that's the only path into the future. Like USPS is set up to fail no matter what happens, and billions and trillions of dollars will continue to get poured in there until they get it away from the government. It just can't be owned by the government. The banks are. I don't understand. Banking isn't owned by government. Why the heck is the post office owned by the government?
Right. Well, and once that happens, once a company like Amazon acquires it, again, you as a small merchant are now in a harder position because you can't buy. I mean, you can't. There's no way to compete at that level, right?
Well, that's why you work with 3PLs and like really great inventory management companies like ShipBob out there who will actually take your inventory, warehouse it, take care of all that speed experience so that you don't have the people experience behind it. This is where it comes to get your product out of here. You don't need the warehouse anymore. I wish I knew companies like ShipBob back when I was running because we had this 5,000 square foot warehouse that closed and we had to count it. God, there's nothing worse than going through inventory nights. All right, guys, 6 hours, all hands on deck. Let's start counting. 1, 2, and then 3. 1. God, that was the worst. And it'd be like 1 a.m. in the morning. Your eyes are drooping. You're tired and you're exhausted and you're like, can't think straight anymore. And you're like, I hope that was right. That literally was the last answer. Like, I hope that was right. Like, did that seem right? And then we do the inventory balance and we're like, we're missing stuff. And then it becomes loss prevention, right? Did it get stolen? What happened to it? Why isn't inventory? And like, it's just a big mess.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, use the tools. There might be a Goliath out there, but you know what? There are tools for you so that you don't have to deal with that issue. You can still compete.
Yep, and that's my mantra. You guys know already. Automate everything, but maximize experience at the same time. So there is a fine line where human need is there, but that doesn't mean like you should automate it like a robot. But there's human need, and that's in the interaction, the customer experience. But everything else around there can truly be automated to a point where you're able to do most of your business and just focus on your customers. And really, we've always seen it. Focus on the customer and you'll win. It doesn't matter what the rest of it is. If you got great product and you focus on the customer, the rest will fall in line and fall in place.
Yeah, exactly. Because also Amazon doesn't have everything.
No.
They have a lot, but they don't have everything. I don't place all of my online orders through Amazon. And a lot of times I do go to them first only to find they don't have exactly what I want. Or I'm worried about quality because I think there's still a lot of questionable Amazon products floating around on there that you get and you're like, this is crap. Granted, you can return it for free, so it's worth the risk, but that's also why I think a lot of people are okay waiting maybe a couple extra days for shipping. If you provide a really great product and a really great experience, then there's not that, and set the expectation, like Jimmy said, which we keep emphasizing. Just set the expectation and you won't run into any issues. If people know what they're getting and when they get it and what to expect, then you're not going to get frustrated.
Yeah.
So that's a huge point, which kind of leads me into our last big prediction for what's permanently changing. And it is basically this entire e-commerce surge. It's not stopping anytime soon. We're already seeing things start to reopen. And even when the entire world has reopened and we are back to normal, I don't think we're going to see anything slow down. I was reading something about huge clothing brand Zara online. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but
Yeah.
they're pretty huge. But they invested like more than $1 billion in digital operations, and they closed like 1,200 physical stores. So that, and I think it was Bed Bath and Beyond, that's converting a quarter of its stores in the U.S. and Canada into fulfillment centers.
Yep.
To support all their digital side. So if that doesn't tell you something from what the big players are doing, they've already prepped themselves.
Yep.
For what's happening and what's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's if you think that the digital world is going to slow down, it was never slowing down before. Even before COVID, it was already becoming more and more massive. Speaking of Zara, they have these new experiences where you can like color match. You could pick a color from the world and then pull up all these products that match that color. That's an experience thing.
Yep. Even these glasses I have on, they're blue light glasses from Warby Parker. They just launched a new feature on their app. It's like the try-on feature. So I downloaded it. It was in beta, and it told me it was in beta, but I gave it a try. Amazing. Absolutely amazing, because their whole model is you can order 5 pairs for like free for try on at home, but there's so many pairs, and a lot of times you can't add a specific pair to your try on at home box because they're out of stock. Because all their try at home glasses are shipped out. So it was very cool. Literally just hold the camera, and they looked exactly like they do on my face, which was very impressive because I've seen other brands try to do that, and it was kind of lame.
I gotta check that out.
It's very cool.
I got the big face problem because I'm Asian and everything else, but like I had this thing called typology or whatever, and it did the same thing, but I didn't like any of the glasses, so I'll check out Warby Parker. Anyways, I have 3 predictions around what you just kind of said. I have 3 different parts of it, and they're very different mindset, and I think this is going to be interesting. So number 1, my first prediction around it is that e-commerce doesn't slow down because people are now aware. And what I mean by people aware is not about anything more than what's happening on the world. The pandemic, why did it cause COVID, right? People now know that when they walk around and touch and see and do things, that they can die from it. I know that's like morbid sounding, but like, let's take it all away and strip it out and think about it in the most basic black and white. If you go out in the public, right now the world is thinking, if you go out in the public, and not everybody, but there's a good percentage of the world, if you go out in the public without a mask and you touch something and someone has COVID and you get it, you might die. Like, that's really the end, right? Hyper-awareness. The second thing I think about when I think things about the prediction around the future around e-commerce is people now are at a place where they realize that they now control their own buying experience based on their own time, their own money, and when they feel like it now. You can go shop at the store that you normally would have shopped at between 8 to 5 at 2 a.m. and nobody will even talk to you. And you can go look at it. You can go look at reviews. You can look at the social aspect of it. And so the buying behavior has changed, but not about just the way that people buy, but the fact that the convenience has come out of it. And this is why it won't change, is because, holy hell, I can no longer have to go to the mall, stop, park, go find parking, go eat an Auntie M's pretzel behind that, and then go get yelled at by my kids, and then go find a product, take it home, pick up the wrong size because I screwed up, and then I gotta go back, go buy another product, come back home, and then I don't even like it anyways, and then I gotta go return it back to the store and spend a whole day of them. Or I could have gone to Amazon, ordered it, read the reviews already, and said, oh man, that product's crap, so I'm not gonna buy that. I'm gonna buy another product that's much better because the reviews have told me that. Get it to my house. I still don't like it. I tell him I don't like it, and the UPS man comes and picks it up from my house and takes it away. Like, how much time difference is that? I don't know about you guys, but I don't care who you are. Your time has a value behind it. You need to figure out that value, and guess what? I bet you nobody could tell you that their time is worth more time to go to the retail store to buy something than it is to just spend some time online. And not only that, you're educated. Guess your buyer is going to be tremendously more educated and well more research behind that as well too.
Totally.
And then the third thing I think is a little bit more, but I think what you already said, Caitlin, it was my third prediction, was all the big companies are doing it already. They've already had the data and the mindset around it. If they're already doing it, guys, I said this in one of the previous podcasts, they've got a lot of smart people that get paid a lot of money to make these predictions and thought process. They haven't been around for 100 years because they just made bad predictions. They made a lot of good predictions. Not saying everyone would make bad predictions, but when the majority of people are doing it, probably right somewhere. So the prediction there is very simple: is all the big retailers are doing it, and you're a smaller retailer or you're just a digital shop, whatever you are, well, you better jump on that train right now and start working on it. Doesn't mean you got to get it launched right away, but if you want to be successful and thrive over the next couple of years, well, welcome to the digital world, and that's where we are. So I personally am more than excited about this world, not because of the business. I don't care about the business because I'm a digital marketer, and I've believed in this for years already. I've over a decade of believing in the digital marketing world and how powerful it can be to put your product in front of the consumer instead of letting the consumer find you. Like, that to me is like the most powerful thing that the world has evolutionized. And I think we're ready. I think the world is ready for this. And I think the explosion is happening in this next decade is going to be the most interesting decade of digital world. I mean, Amir, I know you'll talk about it. Like, put on some AR goggles or some VR goggles and experience the store that they made digitally. And you're sitting in your chair like this, touching stuff and walking around, but you never left your house because you're doing it at 2:30
and it's around the corner.
Huh?
It's around the corner, and we're not talking 20 years from now.
3 years, yeah.
And because the major retailers are forced to do it, it's even adoption is coming faster.
Yeah.
Because now that if you build it, they will come, right? To quote RB the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's happening. Zara with their color picker, Warby Parker. I mean, experiences. The reason people go into retail is because of the experience. People go to the mall because of the experience. They like being at the mall. It's a social experience. All of that is going to get translated to the digital world. Just be prepared to be here if you plan on being a business.
And be prepared to continuously adopt over the next decade, next 2, 3, 4, 10 decades. You're going to continue. I mean, as a business, you need to, but you need to be more rapidly adopting than ever this time so it doesn't happen again. Because let's face it, guys, this whole thing that's happening, I know it may blow over, whatever, but it's probably going to happen again. And it's probably going to be worse next time because something bigger is going to happen. And hopefully the world's more prepared. But you as a business owner listening to this podcast, watching this video, you can be a lot more prepared by it, knowledgeable, learning, education, but also making sure you're properly stacked and tooled to be able to do that, and properly got the right people in place in your company and your team to be able to do that as well too. So there's a lot in the predictions there and the thought process, but I think this has been a great episode of just thinking about like where the future is going, and any good business owner should be thinking about the future. And well, hopefully you get something out of this.
Yeah, all great points, Jimmy. And I just want to, going off what you guys are saying, I think if you take anything away from this, don't let it be daunting. Let it be exciting. I know a lot of times, like Amir and I watch some of these podcasts back, and we've made comments to each other like, why are we so intense when we're talking? It's like we're just so excited about it. It's not you should be fearful. It's more like the word of the week is jazzed for some reason for me. But we're just trying to get you jazzed about it. Like, it's a great time to learn new things, move your business into the next phase, and get ready for that shift. And it doesn't have to be daunting. It's very exciting. And like a lot of businesses have already discovered how much opportunity opened up for them online. So that's just something I wanted to emphasize, because I think for a lot of people listening, we're touching on a lot of different things that can sound a little daunting, cause a little bit of anxiety. But the most important thing, like Jimmy kept emphasizing throughout all these episodes, is finding the right people to help you accomplish everything that we've been talking about. That's really your key to success. So like whether you have a big budget or a small budget, there's so many people out there, really smart humans, especially right now. There's a lot of people looking for work online. So it's a great opportunity to go out and look for those intelligent people that exist, because they're looking for you. So, well, guys, I think that about wraps it up for me.
Yeah.
Does anything else? Jimmy, you don't have to start waving goodbye. He's like, bye, I'm out of here. See ya.
I have gone through my list. I'm out of here, guys. See you guys later. I'm out. I'm done. I actually had a list of things that I wrote down just to talk about on this podcast, because I had kind of calculated my thoughts together. But yeah, I will wave goodbye and say I am good. I've made my predictions, and I hope, never know. But some of these predictions, I think we can look back 6 months, a year from now, and be like, remember that time we said this? Oh, look, it kind of happened, and it'll be cool. And then we also look like idiots too later because some of these predictions won't be right. But guess what? That's why predictions are awesome. It's like being a weatherman. You're always right, no matter what, even if when you're wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
And ultimately, everything we've told you to do is good advice.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of what shifts and what happens and what doesn't, it was all good advice in the end. We work with e-commerce businesses regularly. We're talking to e-commerce business owners and marketers regularly. So even as an email marketing company, we have a lot of insight into what's going on in the e-com world. So the purpose of this series is really just to make sure that you're prepared for what's coming and that you're thriving, not just surviving during this whole pandemic. So thank you, Jimmy and Amir, for coming on and contributing so much to these past few episodes. It's been fun. I'm sure the three of us will be on here again. And as always, we hope that you're staying safe and taking this time to really prep your online business for success. And as a reminder, I mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, be sure to grab our newest ebook. It's a completely free resource for you. It's called the E-commerce Segmentation Handbook, 12 e-commerce email marketing segments to maximize your customer LTV. I highly recommend you go grab that. Totally free download, very thorough, lots of tips on how to segment your list for better targeting, better personalization, and ultimately driving more sales for your store. You can grab that book at sendlane.net/segment book. That's sendlane.net/segment book. And of course, be sure to subscribe, show us some love, review us wherever you stream your podcasts. Go, give us a little shout out or something. We'd really appreciate it. So thanks so much for listening and joining us again for another episode. And we'll catch you next time on the Marketing Automation Hustle. All right. Bye, guys. Now you can leave, Jimmy.
Okay. Adios, guys.